What's up, bookworms? Welcome back to Abe Speaks. I told you I had another good book review for you, didn't I? Here it is. Economic Facts and Fallacies by the Thomas Sowell. Now, this is easily one of the best books that I've had the pleasure of reading this year and ever really is one of the top 5 books. It's very informative, very educating. It's an amazing book and I highly recommend it, which is why I'm giving a great review on it. Now, side note, I'm going to have another one of his reviews, one of his books reviewed coming out later this year. That's going to be over discrimination and disparities, so be on the lookout for that. But back to it. We're covering today Economic Facts and Fallacies by the Thomas Sowell. He broke this book down into 8 different chapters covering different aspects of American society and societies in general as well, of what different aspects actually fall into these fallacies that he outlines within the chapters, or especially within chapter 1. Now, I'm not going to waste too much more time. I'm going to get right to the review. And as you saw in the title, it covers the preface, introduction, and chapters 1 and 2. Now, let's get to it. I highly recommend that everybody read the preface and introduction of books because I compare it to laying the foundation of a home. So if you're building a house, you want to have a great foundation. If that foundation is not stable, everything you build on top of it is probably going to crumble and it's not going to work. Which is why most authors, what they do is they lay the foundation, they provide the thesis, and let you know what it is you're actually getting into. So each chapter, each page you flip through and go through, you're building and building and building on top of that foundation that you had during the preface. Now, we want to get into a few things that I had highlighted, but like I said, they provide their thesis and their introductions. Some things are believed because they are demonstrably true, but many other things are believed simply because they have been asserted repeatedly. And repetition has been accepted as a substitute for evidence. The purpose of all this is not simply a debunking in order to conduct a sort of demolition derby of ideas, but to reveal fallacies that have had harmful effects on the well-being of millions of people in countries around the world. Economic policies based on fallacies can be and have been devastating in their impacts. Like I said, most authors provide their thesis or let you know what it is that you're going to be reading, so you prep your mind, prep yourself, and see what you're getting into. Now, chapter 1 is the power of fallacies. What he does here, what I believe he's outlining, he's really outlining on the terminology that he's going to be providing later on, that he's going to be, referencing to later on throughout the book. Specifically what he does, he provides the 5 fallacies that those different aspects of American society, which he targets as he is American, and other societies he references in general that fall within these five fallacies that he outlines. Now, the 5 fallacies he outlines are, he starts off with the zero-sum fallacy, the fallacy of composition, followed by the post hoc fallacy, the open-ended fallacy, and the chess piece fallacy. My favorite out of them all, which is I'm going to share with you, is the post hoc fallacy. I'm going to give you a quick example of what he used. He talked about, it's really meaning, the post hoc fallacy is really saying, after this, therefore, because of this. He uses DDT, for example. DDT is something that killed mosquitoes, and they used DDT in areas or countries that were suffering severely from malaria, because it killed mosquitoes that was transferring malaria. So it killed the mosquitoes, but people were dying of cancer. And what they said was, oh, it must be the DDT, it must be the DDT. So they banned the DDT. And what happened? People died from malaria because they banned the DDT that was killing the mosquitoes, which they thought it was, but it wasn't. So again, post hoc fallacy, after this, therefore because of this. All right. Now I'm going to fast forward to chapter 2, all right? Chapter 2, because like I said, chapter 1, he really just builds on the preface and gives you the 5 fallacies, the definitions, so that you don't have to reference and go back to everything through later chapters. So you want to make sure that you're reading that and understanding that thoroughly. Now, chapter 2, he goes into urban facts and fallacies. And when he says urban, I understand most people look at it as like, oh, it's a color thing. It's not color, which he openly defines. Urban is meaning in a city. So these are urban citizens. That's everybody. Purple, orange, green, whatever. All right? That's everybody. Now, urban facts and fallacies. And what I really enjoy about how he outlines this chapter and all of his chapters, he always begins it with a question. He always asks a question so that you're understanding what is it that he's trying to portray? What is it that I'm reading? You know, what is it that I'm getting into here? And so he really outlines that, and I absolutely love that. Now, he broke this chapter into different aspects of what these fallacies are felt, implemented, and commonly misunderstood amongst people that these policies are actually meant to be helping, which is ironic. Now, the categories he broke it down into are transportation, housing, and urban economic activities. And what that means is like local government spending or crime. Okay, that's what he breaks it down into. And transportation was really something that I really enjoyed about the book, and one of my favorite things, or one of my favorite parts about it, is because he provides history of it. He doesn't just talk about it, he talks about the history of transportation and how fallacies have developed from there all the way up until now. And so previously people thought that, previously throughout history, those with transportation were a majority of those who were wealthy, right? But over time, throughout history, we have seen that transportation has become more affordable and more people have more access to that. And what has that done economically? It has helped more employees to get more access to jobs that are not just local, but further away from their communities. And that provides more access to those jobs. And it's not just employees, you reverse that, and what that does is employers have more access to a larger pool of people due to transportation as well. Which I thought was, obviously it makes sense, but I thought it was an interesting point of how he broke that down. He also goes into, discusses the importance of expanding with transportation. So along with the history, he gives examples of what happened with Rome. Rome stopped building. They stopped expanding. So people just kept building and building inside of this centralized area. There were no there were no roads or ways for them to really get out and expand the city. And so that's not the reason, because one of the things he does continuously say in this book, which I absolutely love, correlation is not causation. Correlation, say it with me, correlation is not causation. And so he says that in the books, which I love, and I greatly appreciate it, because, it does help us, like, yes, these are just some factors in adding on to what's already there, to some of these existing issues. We're going to fast forward to housing, okay? And so one of the things that he builds upon with this thesis is saying that more government actually causes more problems. More government into these things causes more issues. And what he outlines with it, with the economic impact of it as well. So some of the things they talk about that he outlines is affordable housing. Here's a quote. Ironically, having created artificially high housing prices, government then supplies token amounts of affordable housing to selected individuals or groups. Such selective generosity may be subsidized by taxpayers or by making it mandatory that private builders sell a certain percentage of their housing at prices below market. And one of the things, and you see the outcomes of that. I know, kind of crunch for time. I'm going to crunch this into 12 minutes, guys. We're going to crunch this in 12. I want this to be good for you, though. And one of the things that I really appreciate he does outline as well that happened with that is sometimes they're moving these people from, you have eminent domain in housing. So you're moving these people from these houses and you're giving them some money, but what are they bringing with them? Not saying all, but within these communities, maybe they don't hold the same values that people in community A, they don't hold the same values as community B. And you move these people and you merge these people, and what happens? They bring whatever it is they have with them, whatever baggage and bad things they have, they bring with them. An example, so it's like you can take somebody out the hood, but you can't take the hood out of them. You can take somebody out the country, but you can't take the country out of them. Similar. Now, one thing that I know some people are going to hate, but what he outlines here and talks about is as well what has an impact on housing is, and the economy as well in these communities, are crime. And crime and violence affect the local economy more directly when riots destroy many or most of the businesses there, and new businesses are afterwards reluctant to move in to replace them. As already noted, in just one decade, the 1960s, riots in Chicago's West Side destroyed or forced the abandonment of an estimated 3/4 of that neighborhood's businesses. 3/4. Thus, inhabitants of low-income neighborhoods, most of whom are neither criminals nor rioters, end up paying higher prices because of those among them who are. And what happens if they can't afford those higher prices? You get things like eminent domain. Some of those things may come in, and people come out, and then what happens? Like, oh, it's gentrified. But it's not just not happening. These are reasons, you know what I mean? Like, these things are actually happening. And I thought it was just very interesting because, being a history guy, these things, history is bound to repeat itself, and it's interesting to see what the aftermath is of some of this. So my hometown, St. Louis, if you go look at you can Google the Ferguson Effect and see what that is. All right. Now, one thing is that he also outlines there's no costs in general. So he gets into the semantics that are used within these policies. He gets into some of the things that are used against individuals within these communities. One thing here we're going to outline as well for crime and violence. So from this belief followed massive and costly government programs to demolish slums or blighted areas, to relocate individuals from those areas into either newly built government housing projects, or to scatter individuals and families from bad neighborhoods into good neighborhoods. And so what happens? They bring the bad with them. And so with these they build new slums, right? Slums. And what he says, that's why he talks about the semantics. So these things they talk about, oh yeah, it's government housing. But again, more government means what? The more the government puts their hands into things, the more it actually hurts the individuals that it's supposedly helping. And so he outlines it with great facts and examples here all throughout the chapters, and especially here in chapter 2. And also we're going to get into, and he talks about the economic impact. And one thing that he talks about is like doing these things in different areas. So I really appreciated what he does within these chapters. And again, he outlines it and he asks questions. So I'm going to get back to what does he ask? One thing that he asks. So we're going to get back to housing. So what he asks here, very plainly, very out in the open for you. The question is whether government programs offer a way out of such situations for most people. The idea that government intervention improves the situation is a notion which has been repeated innumerable times in many ways, but endless repetition is not a coherent argument, much less proof. When we turn from political rhetoric to hard facts, we find that those facts tell a story directly opposite to what is being said in politics and in much of the media. It is precisely government intervention in housing markets which has made previously affordable housing unaffordable. Both the history and the economics of housing now show this. And I highlighted that entire thing because you see, it's like, well, I didn't get it. And if you're not understanding what you're reading, don't be afraid to reread things. Remember, you need to understand things. So he's, like I said before, he's building on that thesis. He's building his thesis and building his point and backing it up with, as he says here, empirical facts. And we're continuously going through chapter 2, and we're going to get back to what he was talking about with the housing. And that those costs that he has are spread throughout. And people are complaining about costs or wherever they're at, but they have to understand the economics of it, of what goes into where it is they're moving into. You know, if you move into a more rural area and there's not as many people, the cost of things is going to be a little bit more expensive. As he talks about having electricity, you don't have to. You're spreading the cost of electricity amongst, rather than 100 people, you're spreading it to 10. So those 10 people are having, say, the same costs are here, the same costs are not there. You're having to spread that across more people and then less people. So that's something that you need to take into account as well whenever you're moving into a different area. And I got a few more points here, but that's pretty much all that I have for chapter 2, guys. Like I said, I don't want to outline and give you every single thing that was here, but he has a great. Actually, let me give you one fact, something that I didn't know, a fact of these chapters. I didn't know about 5% of the land of the United States has been developed. Only 5%. In other words, if every city and town in America doubled in size, which could take generations, that would still leave 90% of the land undeveloped. Interesting, interesting. Wow, I mean, it's a great book, guys. A great book. I'm just going through some of my notes of what I have here, see if I want to share anything else. We're looking pretty good right here. We're looking pretty good here. He goes, one thing that he does that's great to me, he does a summary and implication. So he summarizes everything of what he discusses and what he brings to you, making sure that it's well understood and that his facts and that what he's trying to portray to you is well understood. So that's a great one. And all right, so that's all we got for chapters 1 and 2. I tried to make this not too long. I did. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna try to do better for you. I'm gonna have chapters 3 and 4 outlined and have that written up and typed up for you guys. So I'm gonna have that coming out probably Sunday. So that's currently being done, and I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys liking the videos, commenting, whatever it is you're doing. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to keep these coming, and not just book reviews. Like I said before, I'm going to have a lot more other things coming out, just how to help you become a better reader, become a better studier, just becoming a better you. All right? So again, like the video, share it, subscribe it, leave a comment, and until next time, bookworms, peace out.